Today I'm going to be finishing the rendering on this low garden wall, these two sections and the return section right here. I've already completed the render on the outside section of the garden wall just around the patio area and finished down around the corner to here. Now then, where we have the steps, I've also finished some of these internal faces, and today then I'm going to be finishing this wall and the return wall, and we can see the stop beads have already been glued into place and coming around, all good condition. It's a new blockwork wall. The kit that I'll be using today for the rendering here, starting off with the material, is the Parex Monoblanco. You can see there it's a semi-lightweight render. So along with this then, to actually mix it, I'm using a 75 litre mixing bowl. I'm only going to mix one bag at a time because I've found when I put two in, it takes quite a lot. I've got a bucket here that I've marked out with 5 litres. It's 5 litres per one bag of Monoblanco. The rest of the kit that I'm using to mix it, I'm using this handheld paddle mixer. And then whenever it's mixed up then, I'm using this little hawk, the trowel, to actually put it on. Using this little boil here to scrape the stuff out of the bucket itself. Before any of the work was done, you can see the plastic beads around the wall. So this was actually a 15mm corner bead that was put on, and I bonded the 15mm corner bead on with OB1, which is exterior grade construction sealant and adhesive. So that's the kit for that. And then once safety is very important, so obviously you can see I'm wearing gloves. I'll be wearing goggles. When I'm actually mixing the cement, I'm going to be wearing a face mask because it is very dusty and you don't want that stuff getting into your lungs. To keep my knees safe, either wear knee pads or the little pad. I've found after doing these other few walls that the knee pads keep falling down off my knees, so I've got this pad instead. It's quite a wide pad, it's very handy. So once that's done, when I'm scraping off, I'm using this serrated edge from Refina. This one here, you can see a serrated edge just on the end of it there, and this one here is the eye section scraper. You can see that's an eye section, and this is called an H, separated because it's a shape of an H on the end of it there. Okay, so going on then, the other components that I'm using then, I'll be using this little boil here just to finish off. This is a scratching float, and if there's any parts that the scratching float can't reach, I'll use this little Surform here. It's just basically a small sander. I'll be using it. All importantly, keep everything nice and clean and neat. Over here you can see I'm using Scotch tape just to mask off around the edge here. I want to keep the patio as clear as possible. Scissors to cut the masking tape. Dustpan and brush, very good for cleaning up. And then I use this little brush just to wipe down the rendered wall. You can see there's render on the end of it. And that's pretty much all the kit. You can see the black polythene underneath. I'm going to now stretch that out round the corner or around the overall patio, and that'll be my way of keeping everything nice and neat. I'll keep everything nice and dust free, so brush the wall down first. So blockwork, make sure it's all free of any loose material, and then to get my tape to stick along here, I want to make sure that I've cleaned all the loose particles, dust, leaves, whatever, away from that. You also got to make sure that your block wall is perfectly free of debris, so take your trowel over and scrape to make sure all the loose material is actually off. You can see some of the mortar down here is quite loose, so just make sure that that's all taken off before you start, make sure you brush the wall down after you've done that too. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put down the masking tape and I'm going to allow 15 millimeters off the block wall, because that's the depth my finished render is hopefully going to be if I do it correctly. So 15 millimeters off here. And I put this other layer. This is actually weed control fabric. It's got a nice straight edge on it. And now I'm going to just seal that in place with another layer of masking tape. And that should hopefully keep all the dust and the stuff off the paving slabs. And it also means at the end I'll peel this off and hopefully should get a nice crisp line along here. Now we're ready to mix. My voice is a bit muffled because I'm wearing a dust mask and safety glasses. Dust mask, safety glasses, very important. What you'll also need as well, I forgot to mention, you need maybe a Stony knife, or other knives are available, to cut your bag of Monoblancos. Here we have the 5 litres of clean water. Add that to our bucket. And then we get our Monoblanco. It's very heavy. Each bag is 25 kilograms. It's very heavy. And cut that very carefully. So once you've got the bag cut, this is the trickiest part, I think. So you see why the mask is very, very important. So now what we're going to do is get the electric mixer, start off mixing. Then using the little trowel, I'm just going on the edge. Make sure we're mixed down to the ground as I do this. Holding the HUD. I'm right-handed, I'm going to hold it in my left hand, and underneath I'm going to use my little finger just to hold this whenever I'm scooping stuff out of the box. You can see the consistency of this. It's quite thick. It holds on to the HUD by itself. That's mixed up 5 litres of water to 1 bag of material, of water. So, So what I'm trying to do is actually get the render on to a distance or to a thickness of about 12 mil to start with. So you can see there where it hasn't pushed on here. You have to push really hard with the trowel to get the material to adhere onto the blockwork. So 12 mil deep. Obviously my beads are 15mm on the corner. So I'll eventually build it up 12mm, scratch it back, then I'll get it up to 18 later and then scratch that whole thing back. So this is the base layer already on. You can see one of the 25kg bags of Monoblanco is meant to do 1.3 square meters at 15mm depth. So that is it on. That's the first layer, probably about 10 to 12mm deep. Okay, or thereabouts, I don't really know. But now what I've got to do is I've got to then take this edge here, and this is how I try to get my initial first level in the scratch coat. So I'm going to just scrape the edge of this up the side and we'll see what we get. And I'm going to do it one-handed first of all, and then I'm going to go over it and do it later, so straight away I can see where that first scratch, you can see where the teeth marks are, is the deepest part, and where there's no teeth marks is the shallowest part. So I'm going to do a few more scratches. I might have to fill pieces in, and I might have to scratch off more in certain areas. Whenever you've scratched off here, you end up like that, and put that back in your bucket. So we can see where layers have been scratched, like here, and areas where they aren't, here. I'll just put a wee bit more on there, here, maybe this bit up here too, and there's a good bit over here that's filled in. So this bit, and what you've also got to watch out for is underneath. Sometimes we miss right up under there. Now that I've just used the serrated edge, I can see all the bits that are nice and level. Now there's a few areas that aren't scratched, but I'm happy that the depth is good. So when I get this little scratcher here, you can see it's that new that the label's still on it. So I'm just going to go over that, and this will just give a key for the next layer to fix onto. Anywhere where it's not scratched out, but I can tell from using the scratcher that it's deep enough. I can feel how deep it actually is. So just over to here, there's a wee bit up in here where you can see how deep that is, just the scratcher didn't pick it up. I've been mixing the buckets with exactly 5 litres of water. I've added a wee bit more this time, and it's actually made it a good bit more sort of viscous, which is maybe no bad thing for putting on the first skim, so maybe that works quite well for doing the first skim. There's a bit in this bit here that I didn't get in the first pass, so you want just that's not bad. And we're just trying to get the first coat to stick to the wall. So that is what the final scratch coat on. As you can see, on right here, and even finished down around the side of the steps. And there's a little bit of a wall here. We see over here, this is wall that was done last weekend. So this is already drying out. When it does dry out, it's looking creamy, but eventually it'll end up going the same white as the rest of the house. Now I'm on my second layer. First layer is actually dried in, and you can see actually to the touch there. There's a wee skim I put on earlier on, but yeah, this layer here is now good enough now for the second layer to go onto, and that's scratch coated all the way around, and on the other side of that step wall. Now what we have to do is get this up to the same level as the end of this bead, which is 15mm. We're going to come further forward, maybe about 18mm overall total depth, and that means we can scratch it back or scrape it back then with our eye-bar. So what I'm trying to do is just get a consistent depth as well as I can, and also to get the second layer just to stick onto it. Now I've got my second coat on of the Parex Monoblanco, and it should bring us up to a depth of about 18mm or thereabouts. You see here it's just sitting over the edge of our little plastic bead down the side. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to actually scrape off here, and I'm going to use the end of the other end of the serrated there. I'm just going to very lightly just take it up, just to get a level, and this will show me if there's anywhere it is way under the depth that it needs to be. So what I can see, there's some bits here sitting slightly shallower, so I'm just going to fill those in. Now that is both top coats on and leveled off using the H-bar, which is the serrated edge one, and I used the opposite side of it. So now everything's fairly level, and it seems to have dried quite well. It's drying quicker at the top than it is at the bottom. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the H-bar. This one here, or sorry, I-bar. Here's the eye-bar here. I'm going to start scratching up, or leveling it up. So start at the bottom. You see all the powder coming off. And then what I just do at the bottom, because I'm going to keep it nice and level, is I'm just going to use the eye-bar the other way and try to scrape a level section at the bottom. So you can see it's fairly level now. Let's do another run with this. What you can do if any of the areas have little holes in them, or little bits that have been missed, good thing to do is I'm just taking my gloves off, get some of the powder and pop it into the hole, or wherever the gap is. I didn't do a really good job of that, did I? There you go. That's it. So as we can see there, the leveling bar has leveled that up quite nicely. There's some areas there where you can see here and here, but there's only a mil or two difference. So whenever I put the scratching paddle on, I'm going to wait till it dries a bit more, and then I'll put this on here. I'll use this, and it's effectively used like this. At the moment, so I'm going to leave it. You can see it's gathering up in the end of the little float, so I'm going to just leave it for now. So the little bit of light rain has now stopped, and taking the cover off the lid very lightly, just small circles. We can see this is getting the texture that we're looking for. So you can see the finished textures coming together, and this will be the same texture as the rest of the walls and also on the house. So that's these two walls now with done with the scratching float. Now I'm going to finish off and do this last one, and then I'm going to cover it over, and that should be me for the evening because it might actually rain. And you'll notice if the render is still quite wet, a lot of it will stick. So just get a block to lock it on, and then scratch again. That's it finished. So we've got the side wall here, this end bit. We have the step wall is now finished. And then coming around the corner, these two bits of the walls here, this one and this corner piece here. And so this is done just today, and these end pieces, they were done last week. You can see they've already started to dry, and they will dry out at some point the same colour as the rest of the house. That's Parex Monoblanco, a Sika product, and yeah, it's first time using it, the last time using it as well, because I'm only an amateur just to do my own back garden.